I learned that I needed to add the reading piece when I was trying to give one of my cats her medicine. And she's on my lap and I've got her mouth open and I dropped the pill and I was like, oh shit, where'd that go? Ashy, mommy thinks she needs glasses.
As you're like watching the other animal like eat that drug,
Yeah.
you're like, well,
well, there it goes.
we're all fucked.
Yeah. Hello and welcome to The Essence of You. I am your host, Steph Localani, and I am here with my really good friend, Jamie Lange. And I'll give her formal introduction in just a minute, but what I like to do is say how I met people. And I remember the first time I met you, I went to I don't remember the year right now, but it was a Christmas Eve yoga class at the vault at your studio. And I went with Caitlin, our mutual friend.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Gosh. That was right after we've opened the vault. That was the first Christmas after we opened the vault. And that was a very special time for me. I just given birth to that. You know, my son went off to college and it was like I had to have another baby and I opened the vault. And Christmas Eve is a big thing in my family. It's my mom's birthday. And so that was a very meaningful class. I remember that. Wow. God, I haven't thought about that in a long time. Did you like the class?
I came back.
Well, that's true. We kept
The next one that I signed up for was I think it was a New Year's Day morning class, and you weren't the teacher. It was someone else teaching that day.
I think it was Mary.
Oh. You know, when I saw her in that group meeting we had recently,
Yeah.
I was like, I swear I've met you, but only by looks. Like I couldn't remember where or how. It was Mary.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, that was Mary. Mary's my friend who I started Yoga for Good with.
Tell us about Yoga for Good, and then we'll eventually get to your real introduction.
Okay. In 2016, after that election, Mary and I were kind of sad and really worried about what the fractures in the community were going to do. And so we went to the Idaho Coalition for Sexual Assault and Domestic Violence in the Linen Building and said, can we do a fundraiser for you? And they were like, yeah. And so I taught. We invited a lot of people. There was like 65 people came. And it was so cold that day that people had to pour water on their car door to get open because they just wanted to be together after the election. They just wanted to gather. I mean, it was that cold and that many people came.
Wow.
And then we raised, I don't know, a couple $100 probably for the coalition. And then we wanted to keep it going. So we went to Payette Brewery and said, hey, we want to do this. And we do it the first Saturday of every month. And because we had worked with the coalition the first time, we thought, okay, we want to highlight more nonprofits. So the first Saturday of every month at this brewery, we bring in a nonprofit and they speak about what they do for the community. And then Mary or I teach our yoga class, and it's all donation based. And we've raised close to $50,000 in 10 years on only donation based classes once a month for the nonprofits. And Mary and I have taken not a penny. We've never taken a penny.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's incredible.
Really amazing.
And that shows too, like the different ways that you can support nonprofits and you can raise money.
Right.
Because as you know, most of the work I've done up until this point has been for nonprofits, like my video work.
Right.
And the biggest thing is, Steph, I don't know how to raise money. So hopefully this video will help or, you know, whatever mode they're using.
Right.
And then to hear that it's one class a month and you've raised so much money for all these nonprofits.
Yeah.
That's incredible.
And this is our 10th year.
No.
It's crazy. And what's, you know, like 2016, it was in reaction to our political environment. And then here we are again at the 10th year. It's kind of this interesting full circle moment.
Yeah.
Where like last month, I think we had probably, were you there last? No, I don't think you were there.
I couldn't make it.
That's right. I think there was like 50 people in there, maybe 40 to 50. And we raised like $400 in one day, 1 hour.
1 hour, not even a full day, just an hour.
Yeah. Yeah. And it was for kids who have mental health struggles. It was the Children's Center, I think, who it was. So that's $400 for them.
Damn.
Yeah.
That's incredible.
It is incredible. And I get to do it with one of my best friends too. Like I met Mary through yoga and now we have this and it's really special.
That is awesome.
Yeah.
I love that. Absolutely love that. Okay, formal Jamie introduction.
Okay. All right.
All right. Jamie Lange is a licensed clinical professional counselor and owner of her private practice, Humble Warrior Counseling. She is also a 500-hour registered yoga teacher and owner of Front Street Yoga Studio in downtown Boise, where she runs a 200-hour yoga teacher training. I'm in that. She is also the founder and executive director of the nonprofit Girls on the Mat, a nonprofit that utilizes the structures and wisdom of yoga to help girls learn nervous system literacy through breath, awareness, and self-love. She is happily married, and her son Cosmo is a college athlete finishing his junior year in college. She is a born and raised Idahoan and grew up camping, hiking, fishing, water skiing, snow skiing, and paddleboarding some of the state's most beautiful terrain. I love that. And one of the things, I wrote this down too, one of the things on your wall, well, it's the thing on your wall at Front Street Yoga is out beyond ideas of right doing and wrong doing, there is a field. I will meet you there. And it's a Rumi quote. Why does that one mean so much to you?
I think because as I'm a therapist, so P.S. I'm just going to cry a bunch. So, but I think on one level, it means so much to me because I sit with people who are trapped in their ideas that they are wrong or they are good. This makes me good, this idea. This makes me bad, this idea. And once we spend time really pulling some of those curtains back of actually what happened to them, most folks at least that I work with often, maybe not often, almost always learn that someone gave them their idea of what is good and what is bad. It was never generated from something inside of them. It was generated from something on the outside of them. And once you get into the inside, there is no right or wrong, good or bad part of you. You are constructed by every moment of your life. And when we can realize that, then we're always in the field because we're out beyond the construct of those ideas because they're limiting and they hold us back and they don't let us love each other or ourselves. And so when you can break down those ideas, because all they are ideas. Here's an idea. This is a bottle of water. I could throw it at you and it would hurt you. But I have an idea in my head, but I can't throw it at you. I can't drop it on the ground. It belongs to me, that idea, and it was given to me. And so if it was given to me, then I can give it back. And once you give them back, then you're in the field all the time where we're just looking at these things as constructs, not anything that really, really, truly defines us.
I love that. And I love how you broke it down like that because we've never talked about that before. But as you were saying that, it reminded me of some of the ideas that I was given. Mm-hmm. And an easiest example is, as you know, I grew up in Hawaii. And growing up, we were taught to be racist. There
it is.
Yep. There are groups of people that I did not like.
Right.
And that lasted for a very, very, very long time.
Yeah.
And I was a child.
Right.
You don't know what racism is until someone tells you what it is.
Exactly.
So even
or they don't even tell you what it even means. Like whoever sat you down to say, do you know what it means to like something? We just say, we like this. The system says, no, we like this. And you're part of the system. So you are the we. And so here's this idea. Now it's yours. You don't even know what it means to like something or dislike something. It's just, you have to follow along or you're or you're, exiled from the system.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's why another reason why that quote is so powerful to me. It's like we adopt ideas and adapt with ideas and then grow up. Our nervous system grow in and around the ideas that we're handed. And when you can really, really spend time dissecting those ideas, what you really understand is that we're all the same. Every single one of us just wants to belong. And so in order to belong, we are abused by our own ideas. We are fractured by our own ideas. Because how many times have you had a new student or, work with somebody and like you show them a new idea and they're like, what? And it's like, that's the moment. It's like out beyond these ideas, there's something more. There's always more. There's more. There's more. There's more. And those ideas are just so limiting. And so I always imagine every single time I hear that quote, I imagine just laying in a field of grass and just like all the people that I love are there, even the ones that are hard to love. And we're just like laughing and we're sharing all of our stories because they're not good, nor are they bad. They just make us who we are.
I love that. And you said people who could be difficult to love. What does that mean to you?
Ooh, that's a good question. Because I think I could easily say, well, they're closed off, or I don't like their politics, or they're racist, or like all the things. And that's true. True. But if I'm going to answer it more honestly, I think that the people that I find hard to love are showing me a mirror of myself that I don't want to look at. And so then I can say, well, they're hard to love because X, Y, and Z. That's the easy answer. That's the easy way out. And that's the normalized way out. That's the idea that we're given. Mm-hmm. Well, pick something apart and make it about them. But I think if I can really, I think that's the truth, is because I'm like, I've been to some graduation parties the last couple of days, and I've looked in a lot of mirrors, especially yesterday, and I've been spending some time looking in some of those mirrors, and I don't really think fundamentally people are hard to love. I think their wounds get in the way and we push each other away. But fundamentally, I mean, you're not hard to love. Mm-hmm. Even if you were being a total asshole, if I can get beyond me and I can meet you in your assholery, that doesn't make you unlovable. It means you're having a bad day.
Yeah.
Or there's a wound in you that needs attention.
I like how you said that this morning, actually. So I have a difficult relationship with my sister. I will be the first to admit that, and I think she could admit it as well.
Yeah.
And she is a grandma, and her son's new baby was born last week. And so she's a grandma of two now.
Yes, wow.
She has two.
Wow.
And I texted her this morning. I hadn't texted her since it happened, except to say congratulations. That's about it. Mm-hmm. And I texted her and I said, are you getting to see your grandbaby? Because she had to fly out to go see them from where she lives. And she doesn't always get to spend time based on different family dynamics. And so simple text, have you spent enough time with your new grandbaby?
Right.
And she called me. And that conversation led into talking about how our tutu, which means grandma in Hawaiian, is turning 90. and her birthday's in like 2 weeks.
Wow.
And we've talked about going. She made the decision early on not to go because that's when the baby was due, was like within a couple days of Tutu's birthday.
Right.
And then I've got other things happening, like my 14-year-old dog and how I really don't think I should leave him right now.
Right.
And so I've put a pause on buying that ticket myself. And we were talking this morning and she was like, we should go to Hawaii later this year to see Tutu. And immediately, like, I put up the wall. She didn't know I'm on the phone, but it all went up. And I was like, oh God, I don't think we can do this. And then she was talking. And I moved from one room that I was in into my kitchen talking. And I started just looking out the window and seeing how beautiful it was and listening to her. And then she stopped talking and I took a really long pause and I said, you know what? Actually, let's do this together. Let's go to Hawaii together.
Wow.
We'll pick the dates and the times and all of that. But it's those wounds that we both have and have a really hard time recognizing together.
Right.
And so, anytime anything has to do with my sister, it's that whole, like, I feel like I have a very difficult time loving you. And it doesn't have to be that way.
Well, it doesn't have to be, but maybe, I mean, I think it must have had to be that way for some particular reason. And then now it doesn't have to be that way.
Yeah.
Right? Like there was a reason why you two separated or whatever caused that. And given where you were then, that was the best choice for you. But now you are a different human, way different human.
Yes.
And you can see beyond the idea that she harmed you, so you shouldn't be around her.
Yeah.
That's a small idea. Because if that were true, nobody could be around anybody.
No. So
Like, I can't go to work. I can't go to the grocery store. I can't get the mail. It's like, and that's why that quote, again, to go back to the quote, it's like, okay, so my best friend has hurt me, however many times, right? But she's still my best friend. But my neighbor who doesn't believe in the things that I believe, he hurts me. And I'm like, well, I write that person off forever. Or or in the case of family systems, like you're mentioning, losing my dad at 17, like, really fractured my family of origin. And so seeing my brother and his son, his son, another one of his sons is graduating. I love that kid so much. But I'm like wounded by my brother. But I'm holding him away from me. But my best friend or my colleague who's wounded me, I have a different story that can justify me having time with her. But I have a different story about justifying not spending time with my brother. And both of those are small ideas. Even if I feel good on one side and I don't feel good on the other, they're both rooted in a bias that I know more than everyone else about who's good for me and who's not. And I walked away from that party like really feeling that mirror that I was like, I need to spend some time looking in that mirror because if the ideas are small and they're given to us, that means they can change. So I'm going to continue to look in the mirror and see what kind of change I can have with that small idea about my relationship with him.
I think we could all stand to do that with different relationships.
Yeah. It's hard.
It is. And why do you think it's harder with family? Because you talk to more people about this stuff than I do, I'm sure. But have you noticed that it's the family that we have such a hard time with? Unlike you said, best friend, they can do all this and that and eventually we'll be fine again.
Right.
Or a coworker because you still have to work with them the next day.
Well, I think there's a number of reasons, but one that comes to mind that maybe people don't think about very often is when we're, you didn't ask to be born.
No.
I didn't ask to be born. I'm glad I actually wasn't asked, because I might have been like, you know what? That sounds really terrible.
Yeah. I'd be like, fuck that. No.
Who's going to be president? No, I'm out. No, I'm going to sit this one out. Okay.
I do not need to be there for that.
Yeah. But we're not asked if we want to be alive, right? And for most kids, unless you're born into really tragic conditions, you're born into some sort of a family. And the family, whether or not is expressed explicitly, is a promise of safety.
It is.
It absolutely is. And it's not spoken about, but I think back, I don't know, when I was like 5 or something, it was like, I never thought that I would not have a family. I cannot imagine being 5 years old and thinking, well, he could die one day and she's going to leave. And I never had an inkling of that. That's there's a lot of privilege in that too, to be clear. But I think even in some of the hardest circumstances, the family is a promise that we've got you. And so when there's wounds in that promise, they're more personal, they're more intimate, because you promised me, you brought me here. You promised me you would take care of me. And inevitably, because we're messy little beings and we don't tend to our wounds the way that we probably should, we harm each other. And within the family system now, it is a different kind of deception. Because it's the promise, it's implicit and explicit. That's why I'm not a child of divorce, but that's why divorce is so hard on kids. It's like, you promised me that we'd all live in the same house.
Yeah. That
you'd love each other, that you wouldn't make me choose between the two of you. That's very, very traumatizing.
Yeah, I'm not a child of divorce either, but I am a divorcee. And I don't have kids, but I do remember, I'm sure it affected my dog and my cats at the time.
Of course.
And like for Mr. Frodo, my 14-year-old dog, he was there through the divorce. And I am really grateful that we made the choice to not split him. Because I offered that. I said, do you want to split Frodo like you get him these days? Because he's our dog.
Right.
And the answer I got back was, no, he's your dog. And I was like, good.
Wow.
Then he's my dog. And I never wanted Frodo to feel that ever again.
Right.
So I've been very choosy about even thinking about dating and bringing somebody else into my life like that. Because I can't let my dog go through that again. And that's a dog.
Right. Right. And think of a child.
Yeah.
And then having maybe even a sibling, because then if you have a younger sibling, then you become the parent in that go-between. And the parents are going through their divorce, so they're not noticing that the child is stepping into a parental role that they should not be in. Their nervous system is not ready for that.
No.
And yeah, I mean, I've married, and I married my husband, and then we divorced, and then we got remarried. So it was a beautiful story, but we don't need to go into that. But it's like, I remember when we were getting back together, and this girl came to our house in the mornings and would walk with Cosmo to school. And we were getting back together, and she said, Jamie, Cosmo must be over the moon. I'll never forget how she said it. He must be over the moon. And I said, why? And she goes, it's every divorced kid's dream that their parents will get back together. And I wasn't a child of divorce. So I just looked at her. And then ironically, I guess not ironically, when Cosmo was a senior and he was in like a college class before he went off to college, senior in high school, he wrote a paper about our divorce. He wanted to interview my husband and I separately about what really went down.
Wow.
Yeah, it was. I was like, oh, excuse me, what do you want to do?
Did you two get to read that? You and your husband?
Oh, so yeah, I'll have to read it to you. It's so beautiful. But he wrote it, and he had a couple of days where he kind of needed to spend some time away from us.
I bet.
Because he lived it.
Yeah.
And he didn't know all the ins and outs of it, right? And then he wrote this paper called The Luckiest Kid in the World.
Oh.
And in the end of it, he oh my gosh. He talks about like he's so grateful that he has parents that showed him what love is and that there's always a way and that you fight for what you believe in and who you believe in. And I was on the floor just like sobbing. I was so scared to read it. He's like, it's in your inbox. I was like, oh God. It's like read a sentence and then like look away, but it was actually very healing for the whole family because it was just like, there's no secret and we're just humans and we are doing our best and unlearning. When you are in a marriage, there's so much, especially at the beginning, you have to unlearn. And then there it goes back to the ideas. These are just ideas. And we have to, the more that we break open these small ideas about who we're supposed to be, we're more likely to land in that field where we can see each other more clearly.
I love that. And I want to add to the ideas of like, you're not good enough or your nose is too big or your hair is too fluffy.
Right.
These are all things I've been told and have told myself through the years. But yeah, all those ideas too, they're just ideas.
They're just ideas.
Yeah.
They're nothing but ideas.
Yeah.
So you can take them and put them down. But those ones that get planted with wounds in childhood, like those seeds that get planted, as you know, in the women's groups, that was kind of why I started the women's groups. It was like, I just started noticing that, it was obvious, but like finally found a way to bring women together to talk about the wounds of childhood that stay with us as women in our adulthood. And it doesn't take very long for everybody in the group to start to feel their own seeds that are still embedded through that relational interaction and the reciprocity of deep, deep love for women, that we can safely look at our wounds together. I mean, that is why people don't look at their wounds, because it doesn't feel safe. And you almost are always doing it alone.
Yeah, absolutely. Those women's groups. I'm glad you brought that up.
I wasn't trying to bring them up.
No, okay. Well, it's on the list. It was the next one.
Okay. Okay, great. I knew it. Yes, I win.
I
win the podcast.
But these women's groups, so I got an email from you and I had only been to that Christmas Eve yoga class and then that New Year's Eve yoga class or New Year's yoga class. I think I'd only gone to those two. And then I got an email inviting me to join the women's group. And I thought long and hard about it. And I was like, well, you've been through therapy. This sounds great. You like women too. Like you can get along with them. You know you can.
Yeah.
So let's give this a shot. And I signed up. And our group, we were only supposed to go for a year.
Right.
And then we all decided we wanted to continue for a second year.
Yeah.
It was 2 years. And we met pretty much every month, once a month for those 2 years, with the exception of a couple of summer months or something. And even in those months that we didn't meet, we were texting each other and checking in.
Right.
And it was one of the best experience for growth for me, because I did grow and it helped so much internally. And I got to grow with these women and share. And we all got to learn so much about each other and see those mirrors too. Yeah. Like Mallory, who is on an episode a couple before this one. She and I are huge mirrors to each other.
Absolutely. And I mean, I want to be careful and not speak about anything that you said in group, but I think there was a time where I was able to reflect like to you, not only for me, but for the group about how much we wanted to come in.
Yes.
And I want to ask you this, or if it's okay, you know, cut this, of course, if it's terrible. But like when I was able to reflect that to you, did you believe the mirror that I was giving you? Did you believe that we wanted to come in? Because I remember feeling like, I'm not sure she believes we want to come in. I believed that you knew the wall was there. Mm-hmm. But I wasn't sure if you knew that we really wanted to come in.
I could tell that everybody wanted to break through that wall and come in and learn about me and be in community with me. But I had the very few experiences I've had where I have let people in have all resulted in heartbreak. And even now at 46, I have a hard time thinking about letting somebody in and the heartbreak that inevitably will follow, which that's an idea. It doesn't have to be like that.
Well, you had an experience that proved that idea wrong.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Just by being in the group.
Yes.
That was like, well, that's that, or at least maybe not prove it wrong, but prove that it's one version of that idea.
Yeah.
And if you hang on and that's kind of, it's, you know, I always say this like in Forrest Gump, you know, when he's got the chains on his, or braces on his legs, and then he starts running and they start falling off.
Yeah.
It's like, that's what is so amazing about running those groups is like each person has that kind of a moment, right? Where some of those walls come out of those support systems that we don't need anymore, but we are clinging to them because it was an idea that worked. Mm-hmm. That idea that I can't let anybody in helped you recover from the pain of being harmed. But then because it was a recovery idea, there's safety in it. Mm-hmm. And now it's law. Because it helped you feel safe. Yeah. Because that pairs, right? Safety, maybe a little righteousness.
Oh, really?
Well, this is true for all of us, not just you. But sort of this righteousness of like, I was hurt. Mm-hmm. And I have to hang on to this hurt until I know I don't have to. And that you were, when you started to let us in, that idea started to change, whether you knew it or not. That you couldn't let anybody in.
Yeah.
Without it resulting in catastrophe.
Yeah, exactly. And you all welcomed me with open arms. And like every time I would share another piece of a story, everybody was just like, wow. I'd be like, you really want to hear this? Oh, come on.
We were all just like panting at the door waiting for more. I think I said, what did I say about like I want to come, it's like the summer pool.
Yes.
Like I want to come in and play and you're saying pool's closed.
Yep. I had the big sign on the wall, the gate that said pool is closed.
Yeah. And that was risky for me. My perspective of that moment was I was nervous because it's like it's a gamble. Mm-hmm. Because I knew you were teetering on like, I don't know, can I let somebody in? And like, if I come in too quick or too pointed or too aggressive, that could have, then it's like pool's closed for the whole year, not just the summer.
Yeah.
And so on my end, that was risky, but my body just kept telling me, she keeps coming to these damn things. So it's time to let her know that we want in.
I love that. And I came back for that second year.
Yeah.
I might have been one of the first ones who said yes.
Yeah, I think so.
Two.
Totally.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was amazing. And that's true of all the groups that I've run. Like except for maybe the first round, that was because I didn't have my own studio to do it there. So it kind of, I'd have to work around other people's schedules. So it was kind of, less linear. But ever since then, most of the groups have gone 2 years, and it's extraordinary what can happen in 2 years with women in the room willing to speak the truth and also hold each other accountable, which is why you're wearing that shirt right now.
Yep.
Which was, I said something like, well, you just have to remember who the fuck you are. And then a little while later, one of the women, I'm going to be careful not to use names, but one of the women was still stuck in an idea.
Yes.
And another woman turned to her and said, I think you just need to remember who the fuck you are. And we were all like, our jaws dropped. I was like, oh God, I gave that phrase, and I was like, and then she looked at her and she was like, I think you're right. Yep. And then we all just like laughed and like cried at the same time. And that's why I made those t-shirts.
Yeah.
And your group is the only one who has those t-shirts. Well, no, the other group does too. But that means there's only like 20 of them in the world.
I love it.
It's so amazing.
And when I wear a sweater, you can only see the WTF.
Yes.
And apparently I wear this a lot because I recently went to a show and I showed up and they're like, you wore that same shirt to the last show of ours. And I only remember because it says WTF. And I was like, oh, well, there's more. And you open your sweater.
You want to see all of them?
Yeah.
Look at this beautiful view. I love that so much.
I want to ask you, what did you get out of the groups?
I mean, I've been thinking about that because this is the first year in 5 years that I'm not doing group.
Oh,
I did it for 5 years straight.
Damn.
So much therapy. Like I'm doing therapy with my clients all day, which I'm also getting therapy out of that because everybody is a mirror to me. Everyone is, and I to them. And then when we did those retreat weekends, I was the leader, and there's a certain level of participation that, in my opinion, and intimacy that is required of a leader to help the group grow in the direction of opening and continuing to trust. And so I was able to bring some of myself in a way that I don't do in like my individual sessions. And so those showed me that I am everyone. And like that we co-construct each other in every moment, because I would spend time with each woman, and each weekend, sort of like to help her tease out her experience. And every woman is a reflection of everything she's been through, right? And so we're just like deconstructing in order to reconstruct. That's what it was. And I got to be a part of that, not only to witness others, but to do it to myself in a way that I just don't get to do that when I'm with my other clients. So it was incredibly healing to me to show me that I am, all of my pain too is an idea. It's an idea. It's a story. It's filled with ideas. And when you're the therapist and always in the seat of like listening to the story and help deconstruct other people's stories, you're not challenged that way. And so to be challenged that way was a totally different experience. And I miss it a great deal because I think the most healing thing for me, given my relationship with my mom, is spending time with women who unconditionally care about you.
Yeah, that word, unconditional. You don't get to feel that very often, especially in groups.
Right.
The first thing I thought of when I said groups is like the school project groups or the work project groups. You certainly don't get that unconditional love at all going on there.
No way.
But even, I've been in dance groups, for example. I used to take a dance class and I was very involved for a few years and we all got pretty close, but there was no unconditional love. And if we run into each other on the street now, we're like, hey, how's it going? But we're not keeping in touch.
Right.
I was with those ladies for years.
I know.
And thinking about these women's groups, we got deep. And I want to reflect back to you too, seeing it from my side, my perspective, and seeing you as Jamie open up with us during those sessions. There's this, I don't want to say patient, but when you're in the therapist seat and everybody else is not, it's like, oh, Jamie is a therapist. She's the facilitator of this group. Almost like, Jamie's great. She's got her shit together.
Exactly.
Everything's, maybe not perfect, but she's got it. And then to hear your stories reminds you that everybody has scars.
Yeah.
And it made us see, well, me, I can't speak for everybody else, but it made me see you as a human.
Yeah.
Yes, she's Jamie, the therapist and the facilitator, but she is Jamie.
Right. Right.
That's who's talking to me today.
Yeah. I mean, a part of me wants to make a joke because I know I should turn toward what you're saying. Like the joke I want to say is, I'm just a mess, I'm just like, I'm just a mess like everybody else. But there is a certain safety in that role. There's a lot of safety in that. There's a lot of power in that role to, I work really hard to make it as egalitarian as possible. And, but there's a lot of power to not show any response that could reflect that I know that feeling too, or that I've been there too.
Oh.
And in individual therapy, like that is my job to like not give, I want to be as blank, not really a blank canvas, but hold all the space for their experience. But when you're in group, the group experience is all the experiences starting to work together and touch each other and bump into each other and teach each other, all that. And I remember writing up something for one of the weekends and thinking, this is it's time. Like it was a conscious decision to say, you're going to go in today and you're going to give of this particular thing. And it was scary and vulnerable, very vulnerable. Oh my God. But again, like the second you think that you are the teacher, you've stopped being the student. And that's why I just had to keep telling myself that, because I was nervous. I'm like, no, this is what group is about. Some of the most powerful group leaders I've ever had have been ones that were willing to say, I don't know shit about a lot of stuff, but what I can do is hold space for you and let you hold space for me. But the word let in that facilitator spot, you have to let it. It's an active choice to do it or not do it. And a lot of people, it's too vulnerable.
And perhaps, and this is me just generalizing, I guess, but perhaps that might be why some facilitators go into a facilitator role of whatever it is.
Right.
Because they're like, you know what? I don't feel comfortable being in the role of communion with these people and communicating with them in the way that we're all equals.
Right.
So I'm going to be the facilitator up here.
Right.
Where I can have a little bit more of my own power to keep this stuff to myself.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. It's less vulnerable.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was really scary. I remember being really scared, but but then I just cry and it's like, I'm always crying. So it was like, just kind of was like, okay. And then what's so beautiful is that I was received, because that also can be scary for people who rely on you being having your shit together. I don't want to know that you aren't the perfect therapist. I don't want to have an idea that you don't have it all together, because I need to rely on that idea that I have about you. And so, I didn't know if that was going to change, how that was going to change things for anybody else, because like maybe that's the idea they wanted. But that's the challenge of group, is that the ideas are very small.
Yeah. And everybody participating is different. And when you say it like that too, it makes me think of I've had multiple therapists throughout my life. And the ones that I connected with the most are the ones who were able to tell me and open up about their own stories,
right,
to the degree that they were comfortable in the roles that we had.
Right.
But I've also had the therapists that won't say a word about their lives. And it's like, are you even real?
Mm-hmm. Right.
I just said something that I feel like you know what I'm talking about deep down. Mm-hmm. And you've given me a nod. And then now we're moving on to something else. I'm not done unpacking this with you.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. Well, that therapist is probably very scared.
Probably.
Because they're probably living in some small ideas about who they're supposed to be.
Mm-hmm.
There's no doubt about it in my mind.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah. Well, and I want to transition that into like yoga teacher training, where because I'm in yoga teacher training, for anybody listening who doesn't know. Jamie's my teacher. But thinking about that role that I'm about to step into once I get my certificate of being the teacher, and I want any student that walks through that door to feel comfortable enough with me to open up if they need to, because I'm going to take them through meditations. We just built one yesterday. It's going to be so good.
It's going to be so good. I can't wait. Oh my gosh.
I know. But I want to be able to have that openness with them, with my students. And I feel that with you, like when I step into your classes, even before I got to know you in this manner, I felt very comfortable. Okay, I can be in this space, and I don't have to show off. I don't have to be like, yeah, I can do that without falling over.
Right. Yeah.
Which is so not true.
Well, you're not supposed to do it that way. You're supposed to do it the way your body's going to do it that day.
Exactly.
And accept that.
Yeah.
Yeah. I when I was going through my teacher training, my 200 hour, I was working at a place that sells yoga clothing, a very big brand. And I was watching women in yoga clothes, obviously, and classes. I had to go to so many classes. And I saw the opposite of what you're describing. I saw competition. I saw judgment. I saw fear. Basically everyone's swimming in these small ideas of who they're supposed to be and who I'm supposed to be and what the class is supposed to be and what yoga is supposed to be. And when I left that place, I didn't last very long. When I left that place, I made a very conscious decision that I would not become that kind of a yoga instructor, that it would be an extension of, similar to my psychotherapy, that it would be an extension of egalitarian, let's be messy, we're all messy, let's come here with this beautiful practice of self-awareness. And you can't be in the practice of self-awareness if you're in the practice of self-guardedness.
Absolutely. I love that you put it that way, because I've been in different classes throughout my adult life. I don't think I ever did yoga as a kid. That wasn't something.
No, that was not offered to us.
No. But yeah, some of the adult classes where you walk in and you immediately feel like, ooh, everybody here is on edge. Right. And even leaving the class, you've just spent an hour doing these yoga poses and everybody's still like on edge, and I got to get there and I got to get back and this and that.
Right.
Whereas when I leave your classes, I pretty much just fell asleep on the mat.
Yes. Yes.
I think I woke myself up by snoring.
Well, but also like something you just said, it reminded me of something we talked about in training. I wasn't me who brought it up, but I can't remember what it was, but like you go into a yoga class and you spend an hour with other people. But the idea is that I'm going to yoga by myself. But you're spending an hour with everybody in the room and everything that they've ever been through. You are with that in a room for an hour, sharing your breath, sharing your ideas, just through your yoga poses. Your yoga poses, the way you do them and how you do them and how you approach them. You're showing your ideas. You can watch somebody approach a yoga pose and you probably can understand a lot about how they think of the world and how they think of themselves.
Holy shit. No kidding. Well, even like how we show up, what we choose to wear.
Yeah.
If we choose to paint our nails, I am not a nail painter at all. And I'm there with my running toes. And you even came up and you came to like help adjust me once. And I was like, welcome to my running toes.
And I said, I love your running toes. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, we're always expressing the ideas we have about ourselves. Like you said, through our clothing, through our, whether we paint our nails, whether we brush our hair, brush our teeth, the car we drive, the house we live in. These are full expressions of the ideas we have about who we are supposed to be. 100%.
Yeah. And if we could all just let that go.
Or yes, maybe. But also if we could just accept it.
Oh, that's better.
Like if I could just accept that so-and-so's expression of themselves is just an expression of themselves. It has zero to do with me.
Yes. Yep. Mm-hmm.
If I can just, it's like, we talk a lot about the Kleshas and yoga philosophy, and Kleshas are sort of where we get stuck. It's sort of our ego behaviors where, where our attachments live, et cetera. But it's like to accept, going back to acceptance is if I meet you and you're in one of your Kleshas, so maybe your walls are up and you're like, nope, you're not getting in today. And I say, well, okay, Steph, well, fine. I don't want to be. Reject me, I reject you. Then I'm going to go off with this idea of rejection and or lack of openness. I'm going to go spread that to my husband. And then he's going to feel that. And then he picks up the phone and he talks to his friend and he's closed off, and now he's closed off with his friend, right? And that ripple is just going to go and go and go and go. But if I meet you that day when you're like closed off and I say, I just want to be with you and your closed offness. I don't need you to do anything about it. I'm just going to meet you here in your attachment and know that attachment is an idea you're stuck in. So I'm going to wait with you. And inevitably, it wouldn't take that long. We're not supposed to stay the same. Our ideas last like that. I mean, you notice, think about last time you were really pissed off. It took like 5 minutes until something else distracted you, and then you're off on another idea. And so if we can meet each other in that klesha, in that attachment with just an understanding that it's just another idea that someone's stuck in, then I'm going to go home and talk to my husband and be like, yeah, I got to sit with Steph and I just waited. And that idea changed so that next time I'm with you, husband, and you're stuck in an idea, I could meet you there too. And hopefully when I'm stuck in my ideas, you'll come and meet me. Because if we don't meet each other there is no trust in order to grow. And that's the groups, right?
Yeah.
Is we met each other in our wounds. And nobody said, are you kidding? Mm-mm. Nobody said, get over it. Mm-mm. Nobody said, just flip the switch, be happy. Nobody said, well, you have so much privilege, why are you crying? Nobody did that. Mm-mm. We sat and met each other and waited. 2 years of waiting.
Yeah.
Teaching each other's nervous systems that if you wait for yourself and others, everything will change.
Why do you think that's easier to do with some people than others? Because I can think of people that I can do this with every day. Like one of the people I'm thinking of is a contractor that I hire. And there are days where that person is not having it. And I will sit there and I will listen. And then we'll both go on our way and we're okay. And then there are other people where like they're having that bad day. And I'm like, you know what? I'm not dealing with this.
Right.
So what do you think the difference is with some people?
I think it goes back to the mirror. I think the friend that you can sit with, they're not holding up mirrors that you don't like. And the person that you probably don't want to sit with is holding up a mirror that you really don't like.
Well, shit, Jamie.
Well, I don't know. I could be wrong.
No, it's very true. Because now I'm thinking about the people who, like my sister.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I mean, I think about the people that I struggle, even sometimes if I struggle to sit with my husband when he's growing so much and doing so much amazing work. And I've noticed that when I'm not wanting to sit with him, the mirror that's being reflected to me is, I'd like you to go faster. I want you to be where I am now. Hurry up and get here. And that goes immediately back to my first and largest trauma of losing my dad, where like my security was ripped from me, not just because I lost him, but then I lost my relationship with my mother as it was before. And then same with my brother. And then that full promise of a family is gone. It's gone. And so when I'm wanting my husband to be there where I am in my healing, it's that loss of safety. And so when I'm demanding him, whether that's explicitly or implicitly, to be where I am, it's not because I don't believe that he needs to be where he is and that he has to take his own time. It's that I am in my klesha of abandonment. And so I want him to hurry up here right next to me so that I don't have to feel that loneliness or that abandonment attachment that still lives in my body. And I don't know that will ever go away from my body, but it's my relationship with it, my idea of what that attachment means. If the attachment means that sometimes I'm just going to feel scared, that's one idea. But if that attachment, the idea of that attachment is I can't handle myself ever, that's a totally more violent idea. And so it's the mirrors that are reflected back to us about our own ideas that keep us from sitting with people, I think.
I'm going to say I think you're right. I want to talk about this so much more, but I'm also cognizant of our time.
Yeah.
And I really want to talk about Girls on the Mat.
Yeah.
Tell me about that.
Yeah.
So you built this, and the stories you've told about some of the girls that have already been through your classes, it's life-changing. And it makes me wish I had that. But at the same time, I would not be who I am today if I had this as a child. What is Girls on the Mat?
Well, Girls on the Mat was born, it's not even a year old yet. Last July, June-ish. Well, all of 2025, let's just say. I was having a hard time in the way that the denial of the Epstein files and what took place there. I'm not going to dive into that. That will be for another podcast to come back.
Yes.
But I was just sitting with someone in the yoga studio, and I was like, I've got to do something for girls. We have to do something. I have to. Something like Girls on the Run. And I said, Girls on the Mat. And someone in your yoga teacher training reflected back to me. She goes, girls on the mat. And I said, girls on the mat. And then I sat up really tall and I was like, oh, girls on the mat. And so basically girls on the mat is the women's groups, all that curriculum that we did, which is the yamas and the niyamas. And for your listeners that may not know yoga philosophy, the yamas and niyamas are sort of like precepts or guides to personal ethics, essentially. And they take you on a path toward your enlightenment, essentially. And so I adapted that curriculum that is for the women into a more age-appropriate curriculum for girls. Because one of my favorite quotes is, it's my quote, actually. It's a quote by me. Which is, and this ties the women's group and then girls on the mat together, which is when we heal girls, we help women. When we heal women, we save girls.
Yes.
And so if I'm working with women who are struggling with the wounds of girlhood, then why not bring this program to girlhood, for trauma prevention in womanhood, to give them nervous system literacy now so that they don't get stuck in their small ideas of who they are and who they're supposed to be.
That's beautiful. I'm an auntie and I cannot wait to share this with my nieces.
Yeah.
Cannot wait. One of them, the oldest niece, just turned 13 a couple days ago. And yeah.
So, it was sort of a leap of faith. I was like, and I'm just kind of that kind of person. You give me an idea and I'm going to be like, let's go. Let's give it a shot. And so I kind of, gathered a board, applied, hand them out in Idaho like they're candy. There's so many, on your other podcast, you guys were talking about how many nonprofits there are in Idaho and breweries and wineries. That was so funny. I was laughing so hard. In fact, oh my gosh, I went to Mixed Greens yesterday and took a picture of this poster that had all the breweries in Idaho so I could send it to you.
Oh, yes, please.
Because I was listening to the podcast while I was bebopping around. I just immediately put together a camp and then another camp. And then I was able to work at bring the program to a alternative high school in Boise. And the results of which have been so remarkable because, and I think I told you this, I walked out of the last day of the program at the high school and we'd done all the, not surveys, but questionnaires, feedback, thank you. And we had met every metric that we set to make, which was they learned, some of them are a little bit arbitrary, not arbitrary, but just a little bit non-specific, but I learned a new skill, but I learned to use my breath as a tool for my body. I learned to use my breath to calm myself down. It made me want to come to school more. That's at an alternative school where they are lucky that kids are coming at all.
Yeah.
Not because they're bad kids, but because their nervous systems are on fire. And there is no relief. You can put them in class, but the classroom is not the relief. It is the breath. It is the awareness that you are not this idea that you have in your mind. And trauma embeds the ideas. We can go to elementary school and we're handed the ideas, right? But when you have a traumatic experience, it's like a when you brand an animal, which I would obviously never do, but it's like a branding of that idea, and it's just put right into your body as a young person. And if you don't have those tools to intercept the truth there before it gets burned, the truth that you are not this experience, you are not limited to this experience. Without some intervention, this is why we are in a mental health crisis in this country, because we've been branded and branded and branded by our traumas. And then we walk around with these limited ideas that this is who we are. And Girls on the Mat is interrupting that, is disrupting that to revolutionize girlhood so that it isn't something you get through. It's something you thrive through, you laugh through, you love through, and you hurt through. But guess what? You have tools. So hurt doesn't have to feel so scary. It's just another idea and experience to walk through. So we're doing it. And we're building it. I mean, right now there's facilitator trainings starting next month. You're one of them. And then, we have the whole program where there's it's kind of twofold where we've got facilitators, and the facilitators, once you're trained or certified, you then have access to our portal. And the portal has camp ideas, event ideas, scripts, even worksheets, stuff like that. And the facilitator has access to that as long as their certification is current. And then every 2 years does a retraining with Girls on the Mat, because there's always new stuff to learn. And girls are worth every fucking moment to learn something new for. They are on their phones right now, learning about who they are supposed to be.
Yeah.
So we have to be revolutionizing the curriculum, just like we're revolutionizing girlhood. And so then the facilitator does CEUs every 2 years to stay current on their certification, and they can take that to wherever they want to take it and do events wherever they want to take that. However, then we have studios, and the studios then can be partners with Girls on the Mat. So let's say you own a studio, but you're not a facilitator, right? But word on the street is there's this really great program. And so you come to me as the studio owner and you say, hey, I really want to have Girls on the Mat in my studio. And I say, great. So you pay $100 a year. That's it. That's less. That's like $2 a day.
Yeah.
And your studio is a partner with Girls on the Mat. Now that's going to give you street cred in your community, because everything, if you become a partner, then like 5 cents out of every dollar spent in your studio is going to come to the foundation, in addition to that $100 fee that you do per year. But what you're telling your community is that girls in my community matter. And I, as a studio owner, am going to own that for my community. And so then what I say to the studio owner is like, okay, great. Now any facilitator that has been trained through Girls on the Mat, it has to be through Girls on the Mat, to protect the brand and the integrity of what we are teaching girls. It cannot just be anybody. Mm-mm. So then the studio then can have Girls on the Mat facilitators come and teach there, because they are a Girls on the Mat studio. But what this studio owner can do if they don't have facilitators is they can send their teachers to the training. If they're already a member, then those teachers get a discount on their training. So then we're just going to pump out studios and facilitators. That's the ultimate sort of dream. And then I've already gotten some people from Montana asking about it, a couple people I know in Seattle. So we want to take this to the Pacific Northwest in the next 2 years, and then let's take it everywhere.
Hell yes.
So it's always feeding back to the foundation. Always, always, always. So let's say you're like, okay, I'm going to go do an event at Front Street at my space. I'm like, okay, Steph, you price that however much you want. So let's say, okay, I'm going to charge, I don't know, $400 for a camp per girl, right? Great, Steph, whatever you want, but 20% of your profits come back to the foundation. The rest is all yours. So you can jack up that price as much as you want for your profit, but always a certain percentage is going to come back to the foundation so that girls in every community can have scholarships. And that scholarship doesn't belong to that studio. It belongs in the community fund, because you might have a studio downtown where there's a lot of affluence, but there might be a studio over in a smaller town that they don't have a tremendous amount of affluence. And so the scholarship funds are needed there more than they are in your studio.
That is amazing. This is going to blow up.
You think?
Oh, yeah, I do. This is amazing.
I was working on the facilitator guide last night, and, so there's this like overarching sort of like manual about all that it is, et cetera. But then there's like a kind of like a workbook, kind of field guide thing for the facilitators. And the facilitators have to go through, you've already done it to some degree, but we'll go through the curriculum, but about their girlhood.
Mm.
Because in order to sit with the girlhood, you have to know your own. And that goes back to the quote, my quote. When we heal girls, we help women, but when we heal women, we save girls.
That is so beautiful.
Yeah.
And so necessary and so needed. And I'm excited.
I know, me too. Me too. Our camps are going live this week. We got our new software up and going. So I've had a couple of inquiries. So if your listeners are out there and they know any girls that we have camps that run from the ages are 9 to 12 and then 13 to 15. And there's one in June, July, and August. And there's a morning session for the younger ones, and then the afternoon sessions are for the older girls. And in 2 weeks, I'm partnering with the Girl Scouts, and I'm running a camp, part of their camp for girls. The badge is about healthy body image. And it's the first time they've had one. And Girls on the Mat is going to be there.
Oh, shit.
I know.
That's amazing.
I know. There's 30 girls. And I'm going to have 2 sessions of 50, and they're K through 5. The perfect age to start introducing this. And I know we have to go, but one other thing is like the reason why it's so important to me is the research used to say that girls lost their self-esteem around ages 14 or 15 or something like that. And seemingly everyone was like, oh yeah, that makes sense, which is bullshit. Because why were we okay with it then?
Yeah.
It shouldn't be
No.
that. It shouldn't be that. But what the research says now is it happens at 9.
Oh.
That's a 4th grader.
That is a very, very young age.
That's a 4th grader. We have to do this.
We have to do that.
We have to revolutionize girlhood and give these girls nervous system literacy now. It is imperative.
It is, because I think that age is just going to get younger.
The way the world is going,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Uh-huh.
And especially here in this country, and especially in this state.
Yeah.
I'm a born and bred Idahoan. Born and bred, that's so funny. What a weird phrase. Sorry, Mom and Dad. They bred me.
I'm a born and bred Hawaiian.
Yeah, you are. I want that one. But like, I love Idaho, and I love the terrain of Idaho, and I love a lot of people in Idaho. But Idaho's care for young women is atrocious. So,
It really is.
And I'm not afraid to say that, because the statistics show it. I don't need to be scared to say it. So that's what we're doing. And it's, it is, when you take the training, the emphasis is on what an honor it is for you to do this. That you're looking at your girlhood in order to help you, period. And the bonus is that you're going to help a girl understand her own. That's magic.
That is such magic, and I love that. And this conversation's going to go for a little while.
Okay.
I want to ask, as someone who is going to be taking the facilitator training, and then this will bring us to something else I wanted to touch on about trauma. Should I, as the facilitator or eventual facilitator, work through some of my childhood traumas before I go do this?
What does that mean to you, work through?
Work through. There are things from my childhood that I have specifically blocked out that I do not remember, but I know they're there because there are dreams and there are feelings and there are things that happen in my body in certain situations that have to have come from my childhood.
Oh, right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. They're distant. They're archived somewhere.
Yes. Yeah. On purpose. That I, as the 46-year-old Steph, I can't access that.
Right. Okay. So work through means like what? Like you go to your therapist and like, hey, there's this thing in my childhood. And work through it. And like, then how would you know when you're through it?
Oh, that's a good question. Okay, let's scratch that.
Because I have an answer for you. Because if you had an answer for me, I'd be like, oh, okay, well, let's talk about it. Like you're like, well, I've done this kind of healing before, and I knew I was through it because I, went into the mountains and screamed and burned a letter, or I don't know, whatever sort of ceremony you might have had, and maybe that was what works for you. So I really did mean that question. Like, what is that possible?
And I think for what I'm thinking about and attempting to access, it would be understanding what happened to me as a child, so that if I'm in a session or a situation with girls and I'm teaching and something one of them does or says triggers something I'm not prepared for or I'm not aware of, I want to be able to like keep that under wraps and take care of the girls and then go out later and be like, what the fuck just happened to my body?
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because I think what you're saying is, should I continue to develop nervous system literacy?
Oh, yes. Okay.
About my own girlhood.
Yeah.
Because what I'm hearing you say is that what your potential concern would be is you're in a camp session, let's say, and some girl has a reaction, and then you react to her reaction, and you're not aware of what's really going on inside of you, and you don't want to do any harm, do no harm.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah.
So what I would say is that I don't know how we get through we're not going to go work on something and be all the way through with it. It's always going to be there to teach you if you let it be. If you let yourself be the student to it. But what the facilitator training emphasizes isn't that you're supposed to be perfect, but that you must have nervous system literacy in order to regulate, even when you get activated. That's what your job is as a facilitator, is to notice, oh, I'm activated. So what I'm going to do is this tool, whatever that might be, breathing, journaling, because it's going to happen. A girl will get activated. It's happened every single time. And I've had to use my skills in order to say, oh, I know what that is. That's activation. And that's based on a story, an idea. So I'm going to walk over to that girl because I know how to be with my klesha, what we talked about earlier. And if I can be with my pain, that doesn't mean it's gone. It doesn't mean it's all worked through. It means I have the tool to show and model regulation right after activation. That's what we're trying to teach them. So we have to know how to do that. And even if, you're in a camp and one of the girls is feeling left out and she acts out in a way that doesn't mirror that she is feeling left out, your job isn't to fix her. Your job is to just go over to her, and while she might be pushing you away, is to say, I'm just going to be here and regulate with you while you're wherever you are.
And hold space for her.
Yeah. But if you don't know how to do that for you, it's very difficult to do that for others, which is what we talked about with your sister.
Yeah.
Right? It's like whatever she's reflecting back to you, there's something that you're not willing to sit with. That's why you can't sit with her.
Yeah.
And so it's not to go through your whole life and like, okay, I've got this checklist of all my girlhood things, that I've got to get through. But it's the equanimity that you're giving your body, that good things can come and I can say, that's great. And bad things can come and say, that's a bummer. But that your nervous system stays steady. That's what the training is about.
Well, good.
Yeah. We'd have no therapists, no trainers, or anybody in the world if they'd, helping professionals if they were supposed to have worked through everything and put it to rest.
That's true. That's true.
Because I don't think we're supposed to, because those are our teachers. I mean, my trauma of losing my dad is my teacher every single day of like, love hard, chase your dreams, work until you're fucking tired, and then stop working so much, right? Like the whole thing, this journey in life, we're not supposed to gather all these experiences and then shed them away. They form us every moment. So for you to get rid of your girlhood, we'd have to get rid of half of you.
Yeah. And no.
That would be silly.
I wouldn't be me.
No. So there's nothing for you to shed. There's more. It's more about inviting it in and allowing it to assimilate in the whole system with equanimity. Like, oh, there it is. There's that thing. That's that hard thing that some days I can meet with joy, and some days I get pissed off and I'm slamming my cupboard doors. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. But you're still you when you're slamming your cupboard doors. What you need is a tool of regulation.
And that's where beautiful breath work comes in that we learned. I think that was last month.
Pranayama, was it?
Pranayama.
Yeah, it was. Yep.
The breath work where, you can really, that's why today I was moving my desks because I'm finally moving back into my house after the big flood.
Jesus.
And so I was in my office, I'm moving stuff, and Frodo's sitting in the corner going, and finally I turned around and I was like, Frodo, your breath is not helping this situation at all right now. I'm going to need you to exit the room. And then he went, He's like, I can't. I'm regulating, Mom. This is my breath work.
And you're over there not regulating. You're like, Frodo, it's your fault that my nervousness is upset, not this fucking house situation.
Yeah, exactly. Not the fact that I need another person to help me move this really heavy desk.
Right. Exactly. Exactly. That's it right there. Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, Frodo, poor guy. This is getting all your projections. I'm just like dodging bullets.
He is. Oh, that poor thing has been through so much with me.
But yeah, like, I mean, like the breath is one of the most instantaneous influences on our nervous system. How lucky are we that we know that?
Yeah.
That we've experienced it.
Yes.
Together in a group in the teacher training. Like, we watched one of the women in the group, she's going through a lot with her, leaving a partner and kind of her job and all this stuff. And like, we watched it in real time.
Yeah.
I asked her to do a breath thing and she was like, oh, I guess now I feel compassion.
Yes, that's right.
And I was like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
I didn't tell her to feel compassion for him because that guy's a dick.
Yeah.
But still, like, she did it. She slowed her body down and saw that we're all working from our wounds.
Okay. We're going to leave that one there.
Yeah.
Because it's beautiful. And I want to read, because I do also have to be aware of your time.
Yes, whatever. Well, I'm good.
You have another graduation party to go to.
I'm regulating. This one will be very benign.
Okay.
Well, who knows? You never know.
True.
I mean, don't have any expectations and go. Anyway, keep going.
Okay. So one thing that you had mentioned when I sent out my early questionnaire is trauma does not mean death of the soul or spirit. Through suffering and trauma is when and how we find great meaning to our lives. And then you sent me a quote from one of Rumi's dialogues, and I'd like to read that. I said, "What about my eyes?" He said, "Keep them on the road." I said, "What about my passion?" He said, "Keep it burning." I said, what about my heart? He said, tell me what you hold inside it. I said, pain and sorrow. He said, stay with it. The wound is the place where the light enters you. And that's what made me cry when I was reading it earlier.
Yeah.
And it is, again, because it is, that's where the light enters you. And I think that's how you can shine and share your light with the world, is through this.
Through the wound.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I think back on like my deepest wounds, and it is through them that I shine. There is no doubt about that. The work of Girls on the Mat, it's shiny, it's beautiful, but it comes from a wound of my girlhood being so violently disrupted over and over and over, not just when my dad died, but leading up to that. Just violence of a quiet kind. Mm-hmm. The quiet violence of, are they going to stay married? The quiet violence of my father's health deteriorating moment to moment, but everybody looking away. That's quiet violence. My mom being so controlling because the world around her was falling apart, and being very critical and cruel at times. It can be explicit violence, but it can also be the quiet kind that you cry in your room because nobody knows what she said, cut you to the core. And had I not let light come through those wounds, Girls on the Mat would not exist.
Yeah.
Period. There's no way I could get close to girlhood the way that I do now had I not walked right toward the wounds of my own. Yeah.
And I want to add from me, without mine, I don't think I would be even had considered being a Girls on the Mat facilitator.
Right. Absolutely. If you didn't let me come into the pool,
yeah,
and all the women come into the pool, you wouldn't. You wouldn't, because the girls will want to come to your pool.
Yeah.
And they want to come to your studio, and they'll want to do film with you. I mean, you will do Girls on the Mat with film.
Yes.
And like and you wouldn't have been able to do that had you not said, I'm going to go to the wounds of my girlhood.
Yeah.
With some armor on and maybe some weapons in my pocket, but I'm still walking there. And you did, and you continued, because the first thing that you told me and everybody in that group, that first group, why you were there is so you would stop working. Mm-hmm. You didn't say you were there to discover yourself. You said you were there to stop working. And that was the first admission you had to give yourself before you could walk toward your girlhood.
Yeah.
Because your working was keeping you away from letting the light in.
On purpose.
Mm-hmm. Consciously or not, but you had to do that in order to get to a place where your body was like, we got to stop working. And when you listened to that, then you had an entryway.
Yeah.
It had to go exactly in that order.
Yeah, it really did. There was no other order it could have gone in.
Or it would have.
Yeah.
I mean, that's what people are always saying stuff. I should have done this way. I'm like, if you could have done it differently, you would have. I assure you.
Yeah.
I assure you. If you could have, you wouldn't, some of the dumbest shit I've ever done. I'm like, oh my God, how could I have done that? And then I kind of look at like the chapter before that moment and the chapter after. And it's like, there's no way that given where I had been, I was doing exactly what I was supposed to be doing.
Fucking love that.
Yeah. That is a gift to learn that given where you've been, you're exactly as you should be.
Yes.
That is a gift.
Yes.
And now we, not me, we get to give it to girls.
Yes, we do.
Yeah. And you're going to give it to your yoga students. Mm-hmm. You're going to give it to the world, because then they're going to take it with them and go home with whatever you've given them.
Yeah.
That's what an honor.
Yeah. Oh. I'm excited.
Yeah, me too.
Okay, my final question for you.
Okay.
When everything external falls away.
I knew it was this question. I knew it.
Like your titles and your labels. Who are you, Jamie, at your core?
I thought about this because I suspected, I've listened to enough of your podcasts to know that this is the question. And I really like, is it Woody? The guy that was
Noah.
That's their last name.
No, Moody.
Moody.
Yeah.
No, okay.
Noah Moody.
His answer kind of took my breath away and made me cry. And I think in some ways it's similar to his, but different. But I think at my core, I am you, and I am my husband. I am my son, and my mom, and my dad, because every moment has made me. Every moment has made me who I am. So this moment is making me who I am right now. I am you because you are helping me see me. And I'm going to go home and I'm going to walk out this door and I'm going to greet the world, and the world is going to change me. And then I'm going to go home and I'm going to spend time with my husband, and that interaction is going to create me even more. So I am everything and everyone because I am. I am. I'm everything and everyone.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome.
That is an absolutely beautiful answer. Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you for having me. I hope you have me back, and then you have to come on my podcast.
Oh, yes. Yeah. You'll be back, and I will be on your podcast.
Amazing.
I can't wait. This is going to be a good year for us and for girls.
Hell yeah. Yes. Right on time.
Yes. Oh, yes. Right on time.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, thank you all for watching and for listening, and tune in again for another The Essence of You podcast.
Amazing.